Imagine you're dying. Your brain has been thrown away. Your body has been wrapped in linen. Your family has buried you. But, according to the ancient Egyptians, it's time for you to enter the court of the dead. Imagine dying. Your body is lying inside a workshop where the living are preparing you for a journey no living person can follow. In many periods of Egyptian history, embalmers remove the organs that decay most quickly: the lungs, the liver, the stomach, the intestines. And in many elite mummifications, the brain is extracted and discarded. But one organ is usually treated differently. Your heart stays inside your body, because in ancient Egyptian thought, your heart is not just a pump. It is your memory, your intelligence, your character. And when your body is finally wrapped in linen and placed inside the tomb, that heart will become the most dangerous witness in the most important trial of your existence. Your burial is over, but your judgment has only just begun. Before we enter the court, we need to understand why the Egyptians preserved the body at all, right? So, mummification was not simply about keeping a corpse looking recognizable. The body was connected to the continued identity and survival of the dead person. Egyptian ideas about the individual included several interacting aspects, such as the body, the name, the ka, the ba, and eventually the transformed ak. We described these parts in previous episodes, but we don't want to repeat them now because this episode is about the unique scene of the trial of the dead. So, these concepts changed over Egypt's long history, and they should not be treated like parts of a modern anatomical diagram. But the basic concern was clear. If death had broken the person apart, funerary rituals were meant to restore that person and allow life to continue in another form. That is why the body was dried with natron, treated with oils and resins, and wrapped in linen. The organs could be preserved separately in canopic containers or, in some periods, embalmed and returned to the body. The 4 sons of Horus were associated with the protection of the lungs, liver, stomach, and intestines. The heart, however, was normally left in place. And here is where we need to avoid one of the internet's favorite oversimplifications. It is often said that the Egyptians removed the brain because they believed it was completely useless. That is too absolute. What we can safely say is that the brain was often removed during certain mummification traditions, while the heart received far greater religious importance as the seat of thought, memory, emotion, and moral identity. Not every mummy was prepared in exactly the same way. Methods changed according to time period, wealth, local custom, and the quality of the embalming. So this is not one procedure performed identically for 3,000 years. It is a changing tradition. Mummification preserved the body, but preservation alone could not guarantee a blessed afterlife. Now imagine your mummy inside the tomb. Your heart is still in your chest, and that's not necessarily comforting, because the Egyptians believed that the heart knew what you had done. My God, scary. The heart contained your experiences, your decisions, your moral identity. During the judgment, it could effectively become evidence. This fear explains one of the most well-known funerary texts, Book of the Dead 30b. This spell asks the heart to defend its owner, not to oppose the deceased in the judgment. These words were often engraved on a heart beetle placed on the mummy's chest. Remember we talked about it in previous episodes? Don't forget to subscribe to us, friends. We'll be happy. But be careful here. This beetle wasn't supposed to replace the physical heart like a magical prosthesis. Its role was protective. It was supposed to prevent the heart from giving damaging testimony against the person it belonged to. Because in this trial, the most dangerous prosecution witness is already inside you. After burial, the deceased had to move through a supernatural landscape filled with gates, guardians, divine beings, and dangerous obstacles. The Book of the Dead was not a single fixed book. It was a collection of funerary spells selected and arranged in different combinations for different people. Some spells protected the body. Some provided food, air, movement, or knowledge. Some allowed transformation, and some prepared the deceased for judgment. So when we say, "the dead person entered the court," we are combining texts and images that describe an ideal religious journey. The best-known courtroom scene belongs to spell 125. In surviving papyri, this spell can include declarations of innocence, speeches to divine beings, and a painted scene of the heart being weighed. This was not a modern courtroom with lawyers, police, witnesses, and a jury, but it absolutely was a place where the deceased's moral status was tested. In famous judgment scenes, a jackal-headed figure stands beside the deceased. So, this is Anubis. Today, he is often reduced to the Egyptian god of death, but that description is too vague. Anubis was strongly connected with embalming, cemeteries, the protection of the dead, and funerary ritual. In the Papyrus of Hunefer, Anubis leads Hunefer toward the balance. He also appears beside the scale, supervising or checking the weighing. So Anubis is not simply an executioner waiting for you to fail. His role is closer to guardian, ritual specialist, and conductor through the dangerous transition between death and justified existence. Now the deceased stands inside the hall of judgment, and the court is already waiting. This is where the scene becomes much larger than the famous scale. Spell 125 presents a group commonly called the 42 Assessors. You will often hear them described as 42 judges or 42 gods. That is useful as a simple introduction, but assessors is more precise. Each assessor has a name or title, and the deceased addresses them individually. Each is connected with a particular wrongdoing that the deceased denies committing. There is a popular modern claim that the 42 assessors directly represent the 42 administrative nomes, or provinces, of Egypt. That connection is frequently repeated, but it should not be presented as an unquestionable fact. The number 42 may have resonated with Egypt's traditional administrative geography, but the surviving texts do not give us a simple statement saying, "These judges are here because each one officially represents one nome." So in a responsible reconstruction, we should say that the relationship has been proposed and discussed, not that it is certainly the original explanation. What is certain is that the deceased confronts a divine assembly, and before the heart is weighed, words matter a lot. The deceased now makes a series of declarations, commonly called the negative confession. But that modern name can be misleading. The deceased is not confessing guilt. They are declaring innocence. The basic structure is, "I have not done this. I have not committed that. I am free from this offense." Different translations phrase the lines differently, and we should not pretend that every surviving manuscript contains an identical modern list. But the declarations include denials of acts such as killing, stealing, lying, committing violence, interfering with offerings, and behaving unjustly. The point is not that the Egyptians possessed one universal legal code identical to a modern criminal statute book. Spell 125 presents an ideal image of moral purity appropriate for entering the divine realm. Okay, don't forget to subscribe us. Thanks, friend. So, now we reach the image everyone recognizes. A balance stands in the center of the hall. On one pan is the heart of the deceased. On the other is a feather representing Maat. Maat was a goddess, but the word also expressed a much wider idea: truth, justice, right conduct, balance, and the proper order of the human and divine worlds. So the feather is not merely asking, "Were you a nice person?" The test asks whether the deceased can exist within the order on which the cosmos depends. In the papyrus of Ani, the heart appears in one pan and the feather in the other. In the papyrus of Hunefer, Anubis attends the balance, while another divine figure observes the mechanism. Popular retellings often say the heart must be lighter than the feather. But the visual and religious idea is fundamentally one of balance and conformity to Ma'at. It is safer to say that the heart must not be found morally unacceptable when measured against Ma'at. Not to turn the scene into a literal physics experiment about which object weighs fewer grams. Standing near the balance is Thoth. He is usually shown with the head of an ibis holding writing equipment. Thoth is associated with writing, knowledge, measurement, calculation, and divine administration. In the judgment scene, he records the result. He does not appear to be secretly changing the verdict or arguing like a defense lawyer. He acts as the divine scribe who confirms and documents that the weighing has been performed correctly. That detail tells us something important. This is not imagined as chaos. The judgment follows order. The balance is examined. The result is registered. The cosmic system keeps its records. And, beside the scale, something is waiting for the result. Her name is Amit, the Devourer. She is usually represented as a composite creature combining three powerful animals feared in Egypt: the crocodile, the lion, and the hippopotamus. In the Hunefer scene, the accompanying description identifies her front as crocodile, her middle as lion, and her rear as hippopotamus. She waits below or beside the balance. But we should not automatically call her one of the 42 assessors, and we should be cautious about calling her a major goddess with an independent cult equal to Isis or Hathor. In this scene, she is the terrifying consequence of failure. If the heart is condemned, Amit devours it. Amazing. Modern documentaries sometimes describe this as the second death or the complete erasure of the soul. That captures the horror, but it can become too definite. The safest formulation is this: the unworthy deceased is denied the successful, blessed continuation of life that Egyptian funerary religion promised. The heart is destroyed by Amit, and the person fails to achieve justified existence among the gods. For an Egyptian who had invested in mummification, burial, ritual, and funerary texts, that was the ultimate disaster. At the end of the scene, Osiris is seated. He is seated on a throne and is often depicted as a mummified ruler with royal insignia. He represents resurrection, kingship in the underworld, and the triumphant return of death. According to Egyptian mythology, Osiris was killed, resurrected, and justified. You can watch his full story on our channel in previous episodes and enjoy it. This made him a great role model for the dead. The deceased hoped to be resurrected and vindicated like Osiris. In the papyrus of Hanfer, after the successful completion of the weighing, Horus leads Hanfer to Osiris. Isis and Nephthys stand behind the enthroned god. This is important. The weighing scales are not the final destination. Passing the weighing gave the deceased access to Osiris and a transformed existence. The deceased is often referred to in funerary texts as Osiris, followed by his own name. This does not mean that the individual completely purges Osiris and assumes his own identity. It represents identification with a successful death, resurrection, and a justified position as a god. The deceased is trying to repeat Osiris's triumph. So what was the Egyptian judgment of the dead? It wasn't just a heart in the scales. It began with the preservation of the body because identity had to survive after death. It was tied to the heart because the heart represented memory, thought, and moral character. It brought the deceased before a divine assembly. It required a declaration of innocence. It compared the heart to the mat. Anubis oversaw the transition. Thoth recorded the result. Ammit awaited defeat. And Osiris represented the possibility that death itself could be defeated. But perhaps the most disturbing part of this whole scene is this. The Egyptians did not believe that wealth, a beautiful coffin, or even a perfectly preserved mummy automatically guaranteed eternal life. These things prepared you for the journey. They protected you. They gave you knowledge. But at the center of the trial was still your own heart, the only witness you could never leave behind. Your family could bury your body. Your priests could perform religious ceremonies. Your name could be written in gold. But when the balance shifted, the evidence was already inside you. Thank you for watching us this far, our friends. Don't forget to subscribe and stay with us, because knowledge of art history makes you a charismatic person.